What is up, Whale family? This is Nytmare bringing you our third edition of Hang Time, where we talk NBA Top Shot, the market, fantasy basketball, and all things hoops and hype. And boy, are we hyped today with Elon Musk just today tweeting about NFTs himself and just throwing some gasoline onto the absolute fire that is the NFT market in general. And of course, for us here, specific to sports and to hoops and to NBA Top Shot, this only helps the narrative that this thing is going mainstream and is going to blow up. So having Elon on board, we know the effect that that has for crypto, for everything else. We will see what the result is for NFTs, but I would expect, even with the explosion that we've had just lately, even more people will have interest and come on board. And in that vein, over this past week, we also had different athletes talking. Patrick Mahomes talked about his NFT drop. Rob Gronkowski had his auction yesterday. I think he had 1.8 million or something of that nature in total. So a lot of support for his endeavor here to have kind of a sports collectible card. And, I don't know what you guys think about it, but personally, I had mixed emotions, only that I'd rather have the team logos on and know it has an official league stamping on it to kind of have that validity. But people came out and support it. I'm looking here at recent sales and there's already, a lot of significant money coming into this. And this is just an athlete doing his own. So I could be a little bit salty, quite honestly, because I'm a Boston guy and Gronk and Tom took their talents down to Florida. So that could be kind of jading me. But I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of the headlines talking about first pro athlete to launch his own NFT. And of course, we know that there have been others that have forayed into this space. One of them, Tommy Wilson, we had on not long ago. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Chris Cyborg from the UFC actually tried to drop something last year. So the specifics are a little hazy, but the point being, more and more, acceptance and more of this coming to the mainstream will just help our values for NBA Top Shot and all the fun, cool stuff that they'll be able to continue doing with that interest. Yeah, we also had, the football teams getting directly involved. Socios has done an amazing job with their fan tokens and really making that kind of a seamless process for fans to interact and do stuff like vote on what songs go into the stadiums, etc. But they've really built up this ecosystem, and now they're getting into the game. And we all know that football or soccer, however you know it, has an audience and reach that far would blow any other major sport out of the water. So this thing is continuing to just be on fire. And we're getting direct mentions from the NBA. That's continuing as well. I'm sure a lot of you may have heard this last night with Anthony Edwards going for another dunk. I'm sorry, that the dunk was the previous clip where they had called it out, but this one, he shot that three. And I don't know if you could hear it through the setup that we have here on the stream, but the announcers literally called out, here's another top shot moment. So the league itself is pushing and it's continuing to have that value. So what did that do to the market? The marketplace in itself, it had kind of a lull that continued for some time because the market was actually shut down for a brief period with the influx of people. They had really worked on getting the infrastructure to work correctly. And in doing so, they actually had to slow down the pacing and put in kind of a cool down system. You could only list or purchase something, and then you had to wait periods of time that they reduced incrementally. So that suppressed the market and really what could happen. In some ways, some people would say it was good because we just had that release of the pre-order packs. And so the pre-order packs, there was approximately 200,000 of them, 3 moments each, 600,000 new moments that could be on the market. And so that helped ease the flow there. But at the same time, there were a lot of people trying to complete these Seeing Stars and Rising Stars challenges. So, an interesting dynamic, but I think it was definitely suppressed a bit by what they were trying to do with a focus on getting the website to work right. Because, anyone that's dealing with Top Shot and their beta right now know that they're working through the kinks and trying to really ramp up and put resources behind that. So what did that do for the whale vault? The whale vault continues to hold significant value. Like Whale Shark has always said, his ethos is trying to invest in the highest tier rarity possible because it will retain its value. And we're certainly seeing that manifest here. On this valuation here at Moment Ranks, near $70 million. If we go to evaluate market, we can see down here where they tier the leaders, still at that $50 million mark. So slight different methodology, but the point being, we're not seeing this huge fluctuation where values, are just artificially inflated for some time and they're just falling out. If you have some of the, real scarce and real valuable tiered cards, they're holding their value for the most part. And then, what else was in the market? There was a lot of excitement when we saw this graphic here. So Circus Shots, a rare pack. The artwork is out in the wild. When exactly that will drop, we don't know, but obviously that's something that's on the table and imminent. So people are excited to try to get their hands on those, and I'm sure there'll be a huge queue and a huge influx of people trying to get on board, especially now that signups have been opened up over the past week. They were reopened and people could get onboarded. But in addition to that, they had their office hours and discussed some different metrics and initiatives that were pretty interesting. So there's been a lot of discussion about the challenges people have had with withdrawals and the KYC system. And, they've actually enabled a significant amount of new users to withdraw. What that process actually entails from a time perspective, I can't tell you firsthand, but it just shows that they are making efforts to ramp that up and be able to support that. And I'm sure they're hearing the community and what they're saying. Likewise, they mentioned that they have approximately 240,000 accounts that actually own Moments. So we're looking at roughly 250,000 accounts that would be vying for these drops when they come out. And that's kind of what we've been seeing. We've been seeing about 200,000 on many of the queues. That most recent one could have actually been slightly higher. I don't recall the specific numbers, but a significant milestone. We're still in beta. And when you think about the possibilities of how many NBA fans and how many fans there are in general in the United States, let alone the world, we are just at the start of the runway here. And one of the things I was excited to hear is they acknowledged the need and the desire of people to be able to reflect their moments on other collective platforms. So they're working on a bridge or whatever method so that you could see your Top Shot moments on OpenSea or in Vibe or whatever, and be able to list them, have them valued, perhaps even bought. Not sure on all of those details, but being able to reflect them in other wallets or other concentric databases is going to be key for people that want to have a collective representation of their NFTs. For us, example, in Whale, we always get asked, well, why is this separate from the Whale vault? And it's really just a byproduct of the blockchains and how it's executed here. So kudos to them for realizing that that's something that would be a priority for collectors and working on doing something to try to address that. And then they also did have this specific article that came out today to differentiate between pack drops and stress test. And it was timely because this was seen out in the wild. Base set Series 2 release 22, not for sale, not available yet, not officially scheduled, but you'll see the total count here only being 5,000. So the word on the street is that there's a stress test that is imminent. Who knows when that is? It could be today, it could be tomorrow, but likely a stress test prior to any larger scale release. So that's exciting news for people that are looking for an opportunity to get their hands on another pack. And that possibly could be very soon. So it could be going on in the Discord right now. I'd advise you guys just to keep an eye on it because that's where they make a lot of their announcements with regards to this. And there's the corresponding data that you always can find with regards to the packs. And some sleuths have put together that this pack, though it's labeled Series 2 Release 22, it actually ties back to a previous pack that wasn't fully released. Only some of it trickled out. And there's some, there'll be some first moments in there. So there'll also be, I think, a number of rookies with only 4,000 mints in total. So definitely worthwhile to keep your eye on and see if you can snag one of these stress test packs. And in that vein, there's a great resource that I've been using over the past week. And, I know a lot of our users here are kind of the inverse of the NBA Top Shot community, in that the Top Shot community, we're big into NBA and fantasy basketball and things of that nature, and are kind of getting exposure to NFTs. And a lot of our community are the inverse. So I like to introduce different tools that we're using and methodologies, just in case it could be helpful for you. And so here's a great site, rookshot.market, similar in vein to Evaluate Market, where you can look at portfolios and things of that nature and check values. But in addition to that, and this one has a focus specifically on rookies, the person that runs this does an amazing job with really translating the data into charts and stuff that's palatable and has some keen insights. So one thing I thought was pretty cool is this chart that they had plotted out here that shows, the activity of buyers and sellers as it correlates to when packs were dropping. And you can see, during the pack drops, the extreme bump that we had here in early March relative to buyers. But here you can see, where they kind of coincided, similar in volume. So it's just an interesting metric to keep an eye on and have an understanding of how the market can be influenced by what's going on. And they have a ton of really great stuff here. They have information with regards to how injuries have impacted players, which reminds me, I wish I had grabbed a Marcus Smart while I had some opportunity, and he was really suppressed there. And he just got some really cool stuff. I mean, here's one where you can literally get a live replay of the valuations of these, I guess you call them best-in-class rookies here, and how that kind of changed over time relative to each other. So being able to watch that plot out and then make your own inferences is pretty cool, number one. But number two, if you're trying to make some moves on the market, definitely a valuable tool. So there's a number of things here. I'll let you guys kind of explore and take a look at it, but definitely a resource to keep your eyes on and throw into your bag. And speaking of the release of the pre-order packs that happened on Sunday or Saturday, it happened not long ago. So I thought I would just hold on to mine and open it live with you guys. So like I had said, they'd introduced about 600,000, assuming that all the packs were open. If they were, about 600,000 moments into the market. And, opportunistically here, really looking for someone that I think would be viable for fantasy more than anything else. So let's open it up. Hopefully everybody here has had an opportunity to open a pack of their own, but if not, this is the experience. And I'm not sure if the audio is coming through. If not, it's pretty significant the way that they align the sounds and kind of enhance the experience as well. Okay, we'll start with the first reveal. Nice. Speaking of the devil, Anthony Edwards with an amazing dunk. That is a sick card. Serial isn't great. It's not bad either, but getting an Anthony Edwards first pull was incredible. So super psyched about that. Wow, a Wiseman as well. So speaking of the rookies and the rising stars and whatnot, relative to how they perform, not the actual tier of the card, uh, some nice action on this pack so far. And McCollum, who actually had his cool cat and sold it to try to get into some other players. But not a bad pack at all. I had been hearing that a lot of people said they had some, I guess what they would call lower tiered cards, and it didn't really pan out well for them. A lot of people talking about that, but I really can't complain. What was the serial over here on Wiseman? Okay. So again, like we talked about last week, guys, we want to take a look at the serial numbers. We want to take a look at the numbers as it relates to jersey numbers. There's a number of factors that go into the value of the card. So, be sure to keep those different features in mind when you're looking at what you're going to do with the cards that you get out of these packs. So on to the Swish Fantasy League. Relative to the league, this was an interesting week in that we came out of the NBA All-Star game, and there was a condensed number of games at the tail end of the week after the players came off break. A couple of players ended up actually getting sat for some injury rest. If you had Luka going on Thursday, things of that nature. So there were a couple of surprises. And I want to first of all give a major shout out to Chicago Spartan, who came through with first place this week. Always willing to help everyone out on the Discord and give them advice on different things of that nature. Even shot me a couple of DMs correcting me on some things I had said or done that were a bit off. So props to Chicago Spartan. We see a lot of familiar faces on here. Chung Lung, I see you. Dottie, who actually, I think if it's the same Dottie, let's take a look over here. Dottie is one of the top account holders in all of NBA Top Shot, at least as it's ranked by Evaluate Market. Dottie, if that's you, double props for placing and then also for having that kind of collection. Awesome. Aloha NBA, Crypto Mike, Navaguy, who seems to be a mainstay. We all got to watch out for Navaguy. He seems to be always in the running here. Beastlick and Guster. Guster finally showed up, our friend from the Burn, who was with us on our very first episode of Hang Time. Guster, props to you for making those plays and getting into the top 10. And then we have a couple of other folks that I don't know from the chat. If you are in the NBA Top Shots room on the Whale Discord, shoot me a DM and let me know if this is your username. I definitely want to shout you out or bust your chops, one or the other, when it comes to looking at these results and the leaderboard and who finished. So props to the winners. Will prizes will be organized in just a little bit when they are sure of all of the Discord names. And I did see an interesting comment. I forgot who it was. I'll double check and cross-reference it. But, this only shows us the point totals for the week. And in an effort to try to just kind of dive in a little more and see what was the differentiator, what was the difference maker in some of these totals, what put them over the top. I'm going to try an experiment next week with the stats and dump it into an Excel file and do a VLOOKUP and just kind of aggregate and see what inferences we could get. If it was, one block from Jimmy Butler that made the difference, or if it was, Vujacic hitting that one layup, whatever, we'll be able to see what was the real key differentiator. But looking at the plays here, we have some, pretty consistent picks when it comes to the 3-point play. You got Dame, you got Steph, you got Luka and Trey for the assist spot. You have, Chris Boucher, which, wasn't quite as popular, but, Rudy and a lot of the mainstays. Jimmy Butler was an interesting pick here, and I see 3 people just within the top 20 that grabbed Jimmy Butler. And then on the 2-point plays, Zion was a no-brainer for everybody except me, evidently. And that other 2-player spot, was in flux. There was a lot of opportunity there for you to pick some different people. So I don't have all of the stats. I'll have to take a look at what Vujicic did versus, Giannis and whatnot. But, Joker obviously was not the pick for that slot. And so speaking of the results of this past week, I have to call out something I did that was such a rookie mistake, but I will share it with you. You could live vicariously through my absolute embarrassment so that you can make the correct move next time and not make the same mistake as me. So we talked about before looking at a calendar to understand how many games you're going to play during the week and then understand what teams would have the most games. You could optimize what kind of points that you could get for that week. And so, I had pulled up this resource. I had a number of different calendars that I looked at, but I like this one in particular because how it was color coded and just the way that it was graphed out was easy for my eyes to quickly look at the week. And the week aligned on a Monday, just like our league does. I could read the columns quite easily. The color coding was simple for me. So I would look at the week and just be able to quickly see, hey, these are the teams that I should avoid. Here are the teams with the higher frequency of games. And, those are the teams that I should target. I should avoid my players that are in just the one game columns, etc. What I did not do is validate that this source is actually correct. I assume because this was an ESPN document that this would be an accurate reflection of the games, but it was not. It was part of a fantasy basketball draft kit that was published much earlier than a lot of the things were finalized with the schedule. So I think there was still some moving pieces to the All-Star game and how different things would shake out. And this was published prior to that. So I made the decision based on this chart. And this chart was not an accurate reflection of the games. And I realized it too late after the lineups were already locked for the week. So if you were using this because I pointed you in the direction, I think Lange may have actually tried to reference it at some point. Lange, don't use this. Go for a different source. So there's a number of different grids and resources out there. I use this one, which is pretty manual. It almost looks like someone's Excel spreadsheet, but I just like the fact that I could input the specific date and then it would show me starting from that date down. And there's a number of different ones that would show you, vertically versus horizontally. So find one that's good for you, double check with the schedule and make sure that it's correct and don't make the same mistake as me. I think I literally sat Zion and sat someone else when Zion was clearly the one that would have more games. And, I lost. Let's see where I ended up. I ended up in 23rd place here. I gave up maybe 20 points or so. So I could have been 190 something. So fringe, I'd be up here, but I would have had a better shot. At least I would have known it would have been because the players I picked did not perform well versus I just did not catch my mistake. So these things happen. I'm going to give myself a pass and say I thought the schedule was weird because of the All-Star game and get back at it for next week. So what are we looking at next week? When we look at this schedule, we're back to pretty much a normal slate of games. Most teams having, 3 or 4 games during the week. The one exception was the Lakers. The Lakers had 5 games. So if you had someone on the Lakers that you would want to use for your slot, I guess that was a prime opportunity because you could get 5 scoring games out of that. That being said, LeBron's kind of a jack of all trades. So, his 2-pointers are mixed with his threes and his assists are kind of suppressed by how much he's going to have to step up and score right now with Anthony Davis out. So, whether or not that was the right play, I couldn't tell you, but there's an instance where you have a team that actually had 5 games. And before you take anything I say, please double check it with the schedule because, I'm glad I'm showing you this after you guys set your lineups, so it's not me that would be leading you astray. But we learn together here vicariously through what I'm doing, and hopefully, someone could avoid having that same mistake as me. So packs had dropped. There'll be new players for people to leverage going forward. I am using in this week my boy Jason Tatum. So Jason has really stepped it up over the past several games for the C's. I believe if I look at the 2-pointers when it comes to individual statistics, he's doing okay. That being said, he does have a full 4 games over this period. Whereas, let's look at the typical picks. So Zion, 1 to 3 games. So that would not be an optimal pick unless you truly believe that he can score more than what you have going for 4 games. Let's look at Giannis. 1, 2, 3. 3 games. Let's look at Joker. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that was kind of my thought process there with regards to sliding in Tatum versus the typical guys that I have going. I think Beal's still out as well. Let's take a look. Don't even see him on here. Yeah, I mean, he's dealing with some injuries and getting some rest. So, I'm pretty confident with what I was able to put forward. Some nuanced stuff to why I picked Chris Paul for the assist, and I'm still dragging out Nerlens Noel. I definitely have to look at making an investment in getting someone better to put into my slot for the defensive position. Like I mentioned, I'd love to get Marcus Smart in there once he's 100% healthy, but of course, that could coincide with the cost for his card going up significantly. So got to be strategic on what's the value for you and what makes sense. So guys, heading into this new week, full slate of games. So a lot of opportunity to really optimize your lineup. Some new moments are out there to try to leverage. Look out for this possible stress test. Maybe you can get your hands on some of these new moments dropping. And good luck to everybody looking to accumulate their cards in anticipation of the Seeing Stars Challenge number 2 and the Rising Stars Challenge number 2. That's it for this week, guys. Catch you next time on Hang Time.